Week 18 of the regular season. Wait a minute. The Chiefs already have the bye. They've got the 1 seed in the playoffs. There's nothing to talk about. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's a lot to talk about because in Week 18, it's way more than the obvious. And this edition of Defending the Kingdom will dive right into it. Of course, it's brought to you by Ticketmaster. Don't forget them for what you need for the playoffs and maybe even the big game.
Your side, throw in the end zone, caught, touchdown! Kansas City, Justin Watson becomes the hero of the drive.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. Week 18. This is something you and I talk about all year long. Honestly, I have kept the snap counts from last year's Week 18 victory over the Chargers, where the Chiefs couldn't move the needle. They're the 3 seed. Couldn't move to 4, couldn't go to 2, 1. I saved those snap counts because I was so fascinated with the Week 18 victory, 13-12, over the Chargers and what it meant beyond the obvious that I've looked at it for 364 days or close to it. So we're going to dive into Week 18, way beyond the obvious. So your thoughts. Chiefs have the bye. First, let's celebrate the bye. We really haven't talked about that. We haven't had an episode since then. But what an amazing accomplishment for the Kansas City Chiefs. 3 games in 11 days to do extraordinary things.
Aside from the Super Bowls and playoff wins, I'm not sure I've ever seen you more excited and fired up than you were after that game against the Chargers last year. An otherwise completely meaningless game, but you were so excited.
Seemingly meaningless, but we'll get it. Seemingly meaningless, but maybe not.
Yeah, but it's a big deal having the bye. The Chiefs had a Week 6 bye this year. Normally, we've been very fortunate with the bye week every season where it's in like Week 12 or something, and everyone gets a rest, then we gear up for the postseason run. Not the case this year, and I think getting the Week 6 bye was a really difficult challenge for the Chiefs this year because our offseason ended before everyone else's did, because when you play that Thursday game to open up the season, you start training camp a week early. So your offseason is condensed, and then your regular season continues after Week 6, and you're playing all these games in a row against really good teams. You play 3 games in 11 days, 2 of them on the road and 2 of them against AFC playoff teams. Just very difficult. So now to have this bye week before the postseason really gets going, I think is really beneficial, really maybe for this team more than it would be for anyone else. And we can get healthy, get Patrick Mahomes' ankle healthy, get Chris Jones healthy, and let's go take on this playoff run. And the best part of it, like Mahomes always says, it's basically like winning a playoff game. You don't have to worry about wild card weekend. It's as if you won and everyone was healthy, and then you just get to go and play hopefully 2 games at home and then the Super Bowl.
And half the field just evaporates while you're sitting there watching it. Now, also, this team had to play every day of the week. We know that. And I'm just waiting for Paramount to, hey, we're going to have a Tuesday morning 9:30 game. We have to have some juice after the Yellowstone trilogy. So let's get the NFL. It'll be the Chiefs at 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. I'm just waiting for that. But anyway, and what these guys did, though, let's just go into this before we go around the world and then dive into what's not so obvious about Week 18. To face this gauntlet of, I don't know, Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, T.J. Watt, Will Anderson Jr., all their buddies. This was, and now with Denver coming up this week, those are probably the 4 top teams in pressuring the quarterback in the NFL with sack leaders all over the place. And the Chiefs give up 1 sack. 1 sack in those 3 games in 11 days, while they got 12 themselves and 5 with that Chris Jones in that game against Pittsburgh. That is one accomplishment you have to go, all right, way to go.
The only sack allowed in that stretch was on a blitz. I think it was Christian Harris, linebacker for the Texans. It wasn't Danielle Hunter or Will Anderson or T.J. Watt or Alex Highsmith. Myles Garrett, any of these guys, these major great pass rushers did not get to Patrick Mahomes in that stretch, and it's really incredible. It's a testament to Joe Thuney playing left tackle and the left guard, Mike Caliendo, and we have more on that later because it has a tie-in with the Week 18 game last year. But for those guys to step up the way that they have and to protect Mahomes and to let this offense get on schedule has been huge. And then it's also turnover margin. So the Chiefs didn't turn the ball over once in that stretch. They actually haven't turned the ball over at all since Week 12. They're the only team in the NFL since Week 12 to have 0 turnovers. They're plus 11 in turnover margin since Week 12, and they're now plus 6 for the year after being minus 5 following Week 11. That's remarkable.
Yeah, in that 11-game span or 11-day span, 3 games, they go from -4 to +6. They're 10th best in the league in giveaway takeaway.
If you just look at it like if you're someone that hasn't followed the Chiefs, you'll look at it and be like, yeah, they've protected the ball this year and turned teams over. We had like 10 takeaways going into the Bills game, I think.
Or if you went into a food coma on the 14th of December and you woke up on Christmas Day, day
What
after
happened?
Christmas. What? What happened here? Anyway, it was remarkable. And the other thing is Patrick Mahomes, part of the no turnover thing, 237 pass attempts without interception. It's the longest of his career.
Wow.
And so you think about that and take that into context. 7 of the last 8 games, no interceptions. He had 2 in one game. Other than that, 0 interceptions in that span, which covers almost half the season. It's amazing.
He's been awesome. And how about Hollywood Brown and how he changes this offense? He really, in my mind, changes everything. And it's no surprise that I think the Houston game and the Pittsburgh game were the 2 best performances we've had all year offensively in terms of just the eye test. And really an example of this for me, it was, I think, in the 3rd quarter, and we just had a false start. It's 2nd and 14. And we're only up 6 at this point. Place is going crazy. All the fans are getting into it and hoping to get the ball back offensively for Pittsburgh. And Pat drops back, quick RPO, finds Hollywood over the middle for a 17-yard gain. And it's like, oh, okay. It's moving the chains. Went down. Kareem Hunt scored a touchdown. That was basically it. He just changes everything for this offense. You can see it on a regular basis. And Xavier Worthy has been coming into his own as well. I just think the offense is kind of finding its identity at the perfect time.
Yeah, we've seen how Hollywood helps Xavier, but Xavier helps Hollywood. That slant thrown by Pat might have been his best pass of the year.
It was awesome.
It happened so fast. There was no reaction by the Steelers. Okay, this is where it gets confusing in our time machine that, of course, circles the earth and looks for Kingdom fans everywhere. And we've seen him on all the continents except Antarctica.
Still waiting.
Still waiting for Antarctica. Antarctica, we need to hear from you. But it's confusing. We're ending the 2024 calendar year, starting the 25. So we've got to set the dial just right here. Doodle-it, doodle-it, doodle-it. But let's go around the world before we dive into Week 18 of the NFL's 24-25 season and tell you why there's a whole bunch beyond the obvious. All right, where are we going?
Well, quickly, speaking of that, you know what drives me crazy? I'm curious if it bothers you. The Super Bowl takes place in February, right? So the Super Bowl this year will take place in 2025, but it's for the 2024 season.
Oh, yeah, it drives me nuts. And that's why it's Roman numerals. That's why Lamar Hunt came up with Roman numerals. Yeah.
Because I hate when, like, if there's someone who doesn't know a lot about football or it's like a news agency and they don't really follow football and it's like the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2020. Well, no, they didn't. They won it in 2019, you know? It drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy.
Anyway, I digress. I have 9 today.
Perfect.
Maybe a big day for
Juju Smith-Schuster. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which he's done sneaky things.
Yeah.
He's been so good in blocking, like these wide receiver screens, tunnel screens, and other things. It's it's really cool.
Juju strikes me as a guy who's having the time of his life right now. Just part of this team, you know, kind of a second chance with the Chiefs, going to Pittsburgh and win. I think he's having a lot of fun. Shout out to Tyler in Lebanon, Missouri.
Yeah.
Lebanon,
the
not
Yellow
Lebanon.
Jacket. Not Lebanon.
Okay.
Nope, Lebanon. Not Lebanon, Kansas. So it's the Lebanon Yellow Jackets.
Okay. Well, actually, he grew up and graduated high school in Buffalo, Missouri. Are you familiar with Buffalo, Missouri?
Yes, but don't know the nickname. It's got to be the Bison.
It's the Bison.
Okay, it's got to be.
It's the Bison.
If you're the Buffalo, not the Bison, you need to fire everybody.
He wanted to challenge you with that. It is kind of an easy one, but I mean, I feel like oftentimes
Buffalo Tigers.
people overthink it. Like, yeah, the Buffalo Lions. That doesn't make any sense. Just be the Bison. Isn't the University of Buffalo the Bison?
They are the Bulls.
Okay, what are we doing?
I don't know.
I guess it kind of makes sense, but still, what are we doing?
It should be
Anyway, shout out to Tyler.
If you're North Dakota State, it's Bison. So
yeah,
but it's Bison. Depends where you're at. If you're North Dakota State, if you don't say Bison, they'll throw you in the river.
Good to know. So speaking of Lebanon, Ryan congratulated me on saying both Lebanon and Camdenton.
Camdenton, the Lakers.
Yeah, he said I said both of them wrong last week. So I'm trying to get this down. Lebanon.
Lebanon.
Camdenton.
Yep.
Lebanon, Camdenton. There we go. Trying to learn.
Good.
Shout out to everyone in the Ozarks. Dylan is from Northwest Arkansas, speaking of that. Another listener is in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. We've now had multiple listeners in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Maybe a road trip is in the cards. We have a listener in Casper, Wyoming. Remember talking about Parkville a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
So I heard from Jeremy. His dad was the postal supervisor for Gladstone, Parkville, and Riverside's post offices in the 90s. Had to do quite a bit of sandbagging during the 93 flood.
Yeah. A lot of sandbagging. Because
Yeah.
that floods, Parkville, that area in Parkville floods like no other in this city. So,
I believe it.
yeah.
Carly is in Southampton, England. So Carly is a new member of Chiefs Kingdom after watching our first Super Bowl last year. And apparently Southampton FC had a rough year, their soccer team. So the Chiefs have been a refreshing change of pace. We are happy to be there for you, Carly. Welcome to Chiefs Kingdom. Ernest is in Bangkok, Thailand.
Sure, why
Yeah.
not?
Then we also heard from Madison. Her husband is in the Navy, and they currently live in Naples, Italy. But they made it here for the Texans game, which is pretty cool. They're originally from Imperial, Missouri. You familiar?
I'm not. I'm Imperial, Nebraska, yes, but not Imperial, Missouri.
They went to Seckman High School,
Sure they did.
home
That's
of the. Just give me a guess.
Oh, Seckman? It better be something like Saints or like some alliteration that works.
It's not. It's not. That would have been great, but no.
What is it?
The Jaguars.
No.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. I've got to do nickname consultation. Seckman. How many Jaguars are there in Seckman High School, Missouri?
I'm guessing not many
Probably
Jaguars
not many
walking
Jags.
around.
No.
They're sneaky though. You don't know. They could be hiding.
Yeah, they can migrate.
But yeah, there you go. We got nine today.
Too many schools just took Jaguars. It was like an 80s thing, like a late 80s, early 90s. And so I don't know if they went to some seminar and like, well, let's all pick the Jaguars, like new schools or consolidated schools, and like Jaguars. And it makes no sense to the geographic area where they're at.
So Jaguars as a mascot, they give me anxiety because I've learned over time that because of Chris Berman and how he does the fastest 3 minutes or whatever, he would always say Jaguar.
Yeah.
And I grew up with that. And then it was revealed to me only a couple years ago that I've been saying Jaguar wrong my whole life. And now I overthink it. So I want to say just Jaguar. Well, it's wrong. But then I overcorrect and I'm like Jaguar, So anyway, I just call them the Jags. I try to avoid it whenever I can.
Do you ever just thank the Lord you're a senior team reporter for the Chiefs and not the Jaguars?
I couldn't do it.
Can you imagine doing that every day?
No,
You're
I
thinking
can't.
Through it like,
Well, imagine doing a touchdown call. Touchdown.
Jaguars.
Just say Jags. Yeah.
Jags.
Anyway,
Well, here we are. We digress.
it's week 18.
Yeah, it's week 18. Let's go beyond the obvious here. And let me give you the first statement of this podcast as it pertains to week 18, and it deals with Coach Reed. So I interviewed Coach Reed. I always do a one-on-one with him, kind of a fireside chat that we do during the Chiefs Kingdom show on the Chiefs Radio Network. And if you ever get to hear those, he really gets into a place where he rarely goes. It's not a media session. It's as if you're just sitting down with him, having a cup of cider by the fireplace. He really gets into that spot. It's awesome. But in this week, and there's a lot of discussion. We'll get into this of who plays, who doesn't play, and really there's some practicality here of like, well, you can't set everybody. But the point is, he wanted to make it loud and clear that we are all going out there to win this game.
Yeah.
And if some person does not play, don't get it wrong. That he goes, we're from America. It's what we do. I'm quoting him here. But then later he was like, just make it clear. We're going there to win this game. And that's where we start. Because let me give you some examples. You and I talked about this last year in the 2023 game, beating the Chargers 13-12 in a very similar circumstance. Chiefs with a 3 seed. Can't go to the 4, can't go to the 2. They're stuck in the 3. So what do? This is mix and match of guys that play, that sit. Pat doesn't play. Kels doesn't play. Matt Nagy and I agree. It was the reason we were able to win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
That one backing up everybody physically and mentally. You already alluded to it. But the Chiefs won that game. Mike Edwards, 97-yard scoop and score, got it. But the Chiefs won that game. Let's go back to 2013, Coach's first year. This is more of an apples-to-apples comparison of Week 18 of 2024/25, is that the Chiefs are going to play the Chargers, then in San Diego. If the Chiefs can't move the needle, they're going to the playoffs. Remember the 9-0 start? We're going to the postseason. Can't move the needle. They're stuck. If the Chiefs beat the Chargers are out. Just like if the Chiefs beat the Broncos, bye-bye Broncos in this week. Ryan Suckup misses a 41-yard field goal. They got that close. Chase Daniel looked like he was the Missouri Tiger Chase Daniel. Played his butt off. He was awesome. Niall Davis became Niall Davis. It really set him up for what he did in 2015 in a 106-yard kickoff return. All they have to do is make a 41-yard field goal, suck up, pushes it. Wait a minute, Chargers lined up wrong. They had 7 guys on one side of the center. The officials don't call it. If the Chargers are knocked out of the playoffs, the Steelers make it in. The Steelers are watching this game, much like we know that the Dolphins and Bengals have a shot. Same deal, same deal. The Chiefs did everything they could do to win that game. They're going to do the same thing in 2024. If you want to go back and watch 2013 and you're going, I think the Chiefs are just kind of walk through this or sleepwalk through it. Nope. Go back and try to find the highlights of 2013 and you'll go, oh my gosh, the Chiefs are going to the Mile High City to win this game.
First of all, aren't you glad that we don't have to worry about like all the math, like, oh, we need this team to win and that team to lose?
We've been there and done that.
I know, and that's why we can't lose perspective of how fortunate we are that we've wrapped this thing up with over a week to go. To have all this time off is a big deal. And we can go to Denver and try to get the win and try to finish the season strong. It's more than just, hey, this game doesn't mean anything, whatever, like you show up and you play and whatever happens, happens. It's more than that because it's a great opportunity for so many reasons. So you have an opportunity for players that normally don't play a whole lot to get in there and get live reps. And more importantly than that, they're getting live reps against a team that needs to win. You can't simulate that. I mean, there's going to be players who play in this game who don't normally see a ton of playing time, and they're going to be facing a team that is treating it like a playoff game. You can't simulate it. So a few examples from last year that stood out to me that make this game meaningful in a lot of ways. How about Chamari Connor last year? So Chamari, going into Week 18,
great example,
had never played more than 32 defensive snaps in a game. He had played here and there, had that pick against the Bills earlier in the season, but hadn't played consistently on defense. Well, in the Week 18 game, he played 79 defensive snaps, and whatever, you might think doesn't matter. Well, 2 weeks later, in the divisional round against Buffalo, Mike Edwards gets a concussion like 3 snaps into the game, and Chamari's in, and he ends up playing 77 defensive snaps and played really well. I think he was the highest graded defender on the Chiefs according to Pro Football Focus in that game. I'm sure the Week 18 game helped. He wasn't a deer in headlights coming in. Just a couple weeks prior, he had played an entire game defensively. So I think that was interesting, and that could be something that takes place once again. Who knows who it'll be, but it could. The other example is with the offensive line. So you only have so many people you can put inactive or not play. You can't treat it like a real preseason game because you don't have a preseason roster. Look at last year. We had 7 inactives and 8 guys who were active but didn't play. That's 15 guys. Maybe that's a good kind of barometer for what we'll do here against the Broncos. But regardless, rather than like resting everyone last year on the offensive line, they moved them around. Juwan Taylor had 16 snaps at left tackle. Creed Humphrey, 26 snaps at right guard, 1 at left guard. But the big one, and we forgot about this until we made the switch against Cleveland.
Well, I was looking at his starts. I was looking at his career starts. And we remember what he did in Cincinnati in 21, but he didn't start there. Here it is.
Joe Thuney had 18 snaps at left tackle against the Chargers. And Mike Caliendo had 50 snaps at left guard in that game. It didn't seem like any big deal back then. We're just messing around, just tinkering. Well, what do you know against these great pass rushes that we faced over the last 3 weeks? And those were quasi-playoff games in a lot of ways to get this by. Mike Caliendo at left guard and Joe Thuney at left tackle have combined to help the offensive line for the Chiefs, like we said earlier, yield just 1 sack in that time. So, yeah, it's a game that in the standings for us doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's a chance for players to get out there, and if they don't normally play a whole lot, to get some experience, some live reps, and even better than last year against a team that really needs to win, and also to maybe experiment and tinker with some things because you never know when you might need to make a change. And how fortunate are we that Joe Thuney and Mike Caliendo played next to each other, at least just a little bit, so that when we made the switch this year, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Went back and watched that game. This is when Joe was taking over as left tackle this season. I thought, oh, my gosh, he started. Then they pulled him out. Then he comes back in. Guess who made the key blocks on the winning drive with Blaine Gabbert acting like he was back in high school running the 400 meters was Joe Thuney.
Yeah.
He led that drive for the game-winning field goal to win 13-12. And your point about Caliendo is awesome. Let me give you 2 others. McCole Hardman had really not been on the radar. Remember, he was WR1 in that game. I think 7 targets, 6 catches, 77 yards. It set McCole up for the playoffs. it put him in a role mentally where it gave him back his viability and his confidence. So when he went back into the playoffs, that game against the Chargers last year put him in a spot where, he could become the guy to make the game-winning touchdown in Super Bowl, or game-winning catch in Super Bowl 58. I'll give you another one, Charles Omenihu. Charles Omenihu comes up with the key strip of Easton Stick on the fumble return by Mike Edwards. It's Omenihu because Stick doesn't see him coming, and it was the long arm of the law with Charles Omenihu knocking it out. Well, what did that do? It set Charles up for the playoffs. In the AFC Championship game, before he got hurt, Charles Omenihu had a huge forced fumble with that long reach. And so, and then he blows out his ACL, and you're like, oh my gosh, this will be an injury that'll take it well into the 2024 season, which it did. But that game against the Chargers, with all the guys you mentioned, then I'm going to throw in Hardman and Omenihu, set the Chiefs up for the playoff run. You don't know what's going to happen in this game, who will step up in the Denver game, trying to win it, that could lead short-term for playoff assistance, or maybe the game-winning play, or long-term even going into 2025.
It's all a matter of how do you use it. How do you use it? This is a great opportunity for the team to go out there, to treat it like it matters in so many ways. And
Which they will,
and to utilize it the right way. And you can use it almost as a springboard. It doesn't matter if Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones aren't playing. You can still use this as a springboard momentum-wise into the playoffs, and hopefully that's what they do. And how about Carson Wentz? He had the same opportunity last year with the Rams in Week 18, same deal. Matthew Stafford wasn't playing because of their resting him, so Carson Wentz started, and he played really well. Actually won the game. He completed 17 of 24 passes for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. Also rushed for the game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. The Rams were down 20-7 in the third quarter, but Carson led them all the way back. And before you say, hey, the 49ers are playing their backups too, it shouldn't matter. You know who the 49ers backup quarterback was that day?
Help me out.
Sam Darnold, who might be the best quarterback in the NFC this year. So, and their running back was Jordan Mason, who's apparently pretty good too. So it's all to say, you never know what's going to happen in these games. It's just a great chance for the Chiefs to go out there, for players who don't play a whole lot, to get some playing time, put some things on tape, and also to tinker and to experiment with some stuff. But it's an awesome opportunity. We can't overlook it. And it's also low stress. We don't have to go in there having to do this and that. I just want to see the team play well, see these guys go out there and do some good things. And let's kick off the playoffs.
Can you imagine Bronco fans, though, going, it's Carson Wentz? We need this game. It's Carson Wentz?
It's their backup, Carson Wentz?
I mean, it's not Tyler Bray. Like, why? It's Carson Wentz. Wasn't he going to be the MVP of the 2017 season before he tore his ACL? Yeah, the same cat, the same guy, top 2 picks in the draft. That's Carson Wentz who will quarterback the Chiefs in this game.
And Bengals fans have to root for us, which I think is hilarious.
And here's and your point about the numbers game, I'll say this quickly, and then we're going to touch on the Broncos really quickly before we close, is that keep in mind, the 53-man roster, you can elevate a couple guys off the practice squad, but you still have to declare inactives. And if you bring them up off the practice, you're going to have 48 humans. But last year, you're in the range. If you look at this over the years of when Chiefs have been in this scenario, and again, coach is going to try to win this game. Just know that. But you're going to play this game with about 38 guys, somewhere between 36 and 38 guys. And this team, even when you're outside of this realm, I did a minute with Mitch on it this week. Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't play special teams. Hollywood Brown doesn't play special teams. D-Hop does not play special teams. Xavier Worthy doesn't play special teams. Nor does Isaiah Pacheco. Nor does Kareem Hunt. And on a normal team, you'll have 1 or 2 of those wide receivers and maybe one of the running backs who will be part of your 4-core special teams. Where does that put the pressure? On the linebackers and the DBs. Leo Chenal is a great example of he has had to be a 4-core special teams player, leads the team in special teams tackles, and yet he's a base linebacker. We look at last year's game. Cam Jones, I saved those snap counts, as did you, Jack Cochran. You could play up to 100 snaps in this game because you're going to be out there on every defensive play, and you're going to have to do all special teams. But those guys that are out there for these almost 100 plays against the Broncos are your 4-core mainline special teams guys for that divisional playoff game against whomever it is. So that is the only peril to me in this, is you don't want injury, and you're going to have to play other guys. You're going to have to play starting offensive linemen. You don't have enough guys to do it otherwise. This isn't a preseason game. So there has to be a mix and match. And that's why every day in this building, this coaching staff, it's almost like training camp. Every day they're going through personnel, and they're going into the strategy of this game. Who plays, who doesn't, how many snaps does a guy get? And so it's a daily exercise. And if coach says, hey, we're still trying to figure this out, or it's not gamesmanship, it is really trying to handle this in the right way logistically. And it's a challenge in that regard. But you're going to have guys who you need in the playoffs who will play upwards to 100 snaps in this game.
Yeah, when you hear resting the starters, it makes it seem like everybody can just take the day off. Not the case. Leo played a bunch of snaps last year in that Week 18 game. I'm curious which guys will fall into that realm of,
and
hey,
that kind
you're
of
a starter.
set him up for the playoffs, too.
No, it did. He had
Think
a great
about his
playoff
plays.
run.
Yeah, and his forced fumble, right?
Well, speaking of special teams, he blocked the field goal, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
The PAT.
Yeah, the PAT. So
yeah, for sure.
Pretty good on special teams. But anyway, yeah, you can't rest everybody. And there are some players who are big-time contributors in addition to special teams, either on offense or on defense, that are going to have to play a lot of snaps in this game. You just have so many guys. You have to play them. And we'll see who those guys are in this one. I think could be a busy day for Nico Remigio, though.
Oh, yeah.
Jaden Hicks could have a busy day. There's several young players who have kind of done some things, but I'm excited to see what they can do with a really heavy snap count in this game, and we'll see how it plays out.
But your point is a good one. Is the fact that Remigio has been a surge of adrenaline in the return game. Jaden Hicks is your personal protector on punt.
Now they're going to play offense and defense, too.
There you go.
Because you have to, and it's a great chance and opportunity for them. But, yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. It's just, again, the rest factor here, the mental break is all such a big deal. But at the same time, you have to attack it. You have to attack practice. You have to have the mentality of we're going there to win, because that's how you maintain your momentum into the playoffs. And I have no doubt this team will do that because that's how they handle it every single time. But it certainly is nice knowing that we're basically checking off the wild card weekend. Hey, we won a playoff game no matter what happens.
We'll quickly touch on Denver, and then we'll close it here. But hopefully we've given you some things to think about, which we try to do in every episode of Defending the Kingdom, that Week 18, there is a whole bunch more beyond the obvious of, like, this is not a preseason game for the Chiefs. Okay, Denver's defense, impressive. Number 1 in the league in sacks. This defense is good, and it's gotten better. The other thing is, when you look at them, is 5 non-offensive touchdowns. This is a team that has 2 scoop and scores and 3 pick sixes. Not only are they good on defense, they're explosive on defense, and we've seen that. So they have been in a bit of a losing streak here, right? They have to win this game to get to the playoffs, but it has taken unusual plays. It's taken very good plays by good teams to beat them the last 2 weeks.
Sure. I'm very interested to see, though, how they handle this game, especially if the Bengals win on Saturday, because they're going to be feeling the pressure. Yeah. And when you have a young team like the Broncos are, with a young quarterback in Bo Nix, who has impressed us this season, I think he's gotten steadily better as the year has gone on and made a bunch of big throws and some big plays. But I'm curious, in Week 18, when you have to win and you're at home, and let's say Carson leads a touchdown drive on the opening possession, how do they respond to that? And for Broncos fans, they're going to learn a lot about their team this week, one way or the other, because this is a difficult situation for a young team to be in. Their defense is very good, and their pass rush is excellent. Nick Bonito is an awesome player, and it's going to be a test, I think, depending on what offensive linemen are out there for the Chiefs. That'll be one of the things to watch, is how can those guys hold up against one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. To my point earlier, though, that's why it's a great opportunity. Let's say, I don't know, Kingsley's back out there, or Hunter Nordzad gets some snaps. I don't know who's going to play, but just for the sake of conversation, it's a great opportunity for those guys to face one of the best pass rushes in the NFL in a game that the other team has to win, because you cannot simulate those reps. You can't simulate that in the preseason. And even last year in Week 18, the Chargers were resting their starters as well in a lot of ways because they had a lot of injuries. So the Chiefs weren't necessarily getting all of their best players. In this game, they're going to get all the Broncos' best players, and they need to win to make the postseason. So it's awesome for these young guys who maybe don't play a whole lot. Now, all of a sudden, you get to go in a situation where it's like you're playing a playoff game, essentially, and you can't simulate that.
Nope, it's 2013 all over again. And Zach Allen's been a beast.
Yeah.
He's been an absolute beast inside.
Was last week, too.
For that defense. And to your pressure point, this exacerbates it. The Broncos, after winning the Super Bowl, have set an NFL record, the longest drought for a Super Bowl champion not to get back to the playoffs.
Wow.
So you're talking 2015, the 2015 season, they win Super Bowl 50. They've not made the playoffs since then. That's an NFL record, longest drought for anybody that won the Super Bowl to the time they get back to the playoffs. That now just builds the pressure. And I would say even if the Bengals lose, the league had it where the Dolphins are playing at the same time.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs beat the Broncos and the Dolphins win, it's the Dolphins.
Even if the Bengals win.
Even if the Bengals win, it's the Dolphins who get the 7th seed. So there is pressure on the Denver Broncos.
Speaking of the playoff field, I just think this is worth repeating. You know the Chiefs have played the entire AFC playoff field as it stands right now.
8 of our 16 games have been already against the playoff field. 7. This will be 8. It'd be 8 of the 17.
The Chiefs are 15-1. They're just the 8th team in NFL history to win 15 games. If they win this game, they'll be just the 2nd team in NFL history to win 16 regular season games, only other team being the 07 Patriots. And as it stands now, we've beaten the number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7 seeds in the AFC, and the number 4 seed in the NFC, whether it's Atlanta or Tampa Bay. The Chiefs are back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions, and they're 15-1 in the 1 seed. These things don't happen often. I think there is a level of fatigue nationally where no one's really talking about it, but the Chiefs have an amazing opportunity in front of them here where if we can win 3 games in the postseason, and it won't be easy. It's going to be against really good teams. But this could be considered one of the greatest runs, if not the greatest run of all time. And we're living it. So got to enjoy every minute of it.
And to that point, of the 8 previous back-to-back Super Bowl champions, only 1 even made it to the conference championship game, and it was the 90 San Francisco 49ers. And they went 15-1 that year in a 16-game regular season and lost 15-13 to the New York Giants, who went on to win the whole thing. That, to your point, we are truly a historic time and a historic run potentially. But know this as we close. There's a lot more to Week 18 than maybe you're thinking about, and the Chiefs are going to Denver to win the game.